one of the questions that has been asked, that was asked back in the 30s. I mean, for 3 years after the Great Depression in 1929, by and large, the efforts to solve the Great Depression by Herbert Hoover and Mr. Morgan, as I recall, is Secretary of the Treasury, were to be hands off, basically. Liquidate everything, right, was Morgan's famous statement, as I recall. And as opposed to regulating things. And FDR came in and started regulating things seriously. For example, Glass-Steagall telling banks, you've got to make a choice. You can either be a gambling bank, like Merrill Lynch used to be, basically a brokerage house, or you can be a checkbook bank, commercial bank, and write mortgages and keep people's money in their checkbooks. But you can't be both. We deregulated that in 1999, and well, wasn't that wonderful? So what do we do? How did we get here, and how do we get out of here? Bill Frezza has some thoughts on this. He's an adjunct scholar with the Competitive Enterprise Institute, CEI.org. So make the case. It seems to me that we need more regulation. Our gas and oil companies are dumping their waste in our air, and they don't have to pay for it. Our banks are robbing us blind, and there's not much can be done about it. I don't see where deregulation is the solution to any of this.
We need to do something different. I'm with you on that. The economy is a mess right now, and no one can see a path out. Let's stick with the banks for a while. We have the worst of all possible worlds. We have totally out of control, too big to fail banks that are really in the gambling business. Anybody who pays any attention to the derivatives cascade these folks have built should be be because they could come down again just like they did in 2008.
Well, in fact, I think they will.
And yet, they're supposedly being regulated by folks in Washington who think they can keep up with these meshes of the universe, but there's no chance that they can.
No, I absolutely agree with you, but see, they would never have been able to do this. I mean, the derivatives market, the worldwide derivatives market, pretty much didn't exist in 1999. And what small part of it there was about an $80 trillion market. Most of it went through either the Chicago Board of Trade or other regulated and transparent markets. It was the Commodity Futures Modernization Act promoted by Phil Gramm. It was proposed by Ken Lay, and of course Phil Gramm's wife Wendy was on Ken's board of directors at Enron. Ken Lay wanted to get into the business of trading in derivatives, energy derivatives, and he also wanted to open his own bank. And so you had the Commodity Futures Modernization Act that Phil Gramm championed, and the Gramm-Leach-Bliley, which ended Glass-Steagall, which Phil Gramm championed. Now, granted, Bill Clinton signed both of them eagerly, but that deregulation, I would argue, is what has caused the situation you just described. Shouldn't we be re-regulating the banks?
But let's look at the best form of regulation is driving them out of business. So if we want to live in a world that has financial innovation, all right, which I will contend is important for the growth of the economy, it's important for bringing on new businesses. We have to allow people to innovate, but just like in other areas like technology, if the innovators fail, they need to go bankrupt. Their shareholders need to lose all their money.
I'm with you. We never should have bailed out the banks. Totally agreed. But isn't it time then to start applying the Sherman Antitrust Act? I realize that's a regulation too, but that's basically how you prevent capitalism from turning into monopoly.
We don't have a monopoly problem, except for the fact that the government has set up organizations like Fannie Mae.
Well, no, you've got 5 banks that have total assets equal to 65% of our GDP. That's not a monopoly?
That's a too big to fail problem, which is caused by the implied, and by the way, I'm agreeing with you, it's caused by the implied protection of the federal government. We need to take the protection of the federal government away from the banks. Bankers need to fail. People need to know when they
But isn't that
that they could lose their money?
Yeah, but isn't that the essence of Dodd-Frank?
No, Dodd-Frank does just the opposite. Dodd-Frank enshrines these people.
No, Dodd-Frank has a mechanism for dissolving banks, when they fail, rather than bailing them out. It's built right into it. It's explicit in the language. It forbids bailing them out.
This is a fiction to think that it's going to happen. If you look at how it's been changed to monetary policy, which is what's fueling this whole thing, all right? In fact, it's monetary policy that's fueling both the too big to fail banks that fueled the mortgage crisis we had before, and that's going to fuel the mortgage crisis we're going to have again. This is working hand in hand with government involvement in the banking business. Yeah. If you try to embrace them and control them.
So how do we get the government out of the banking business or away from it? We have just 30 seconds, Bill. What's your solution?
That's the right question. How do we get the government out of the banking business? How do we get them out of monetary policy? And how do we do it? So that the banks fail just like any other business fails when they screw the public or when they gamble unsuccessfully. That's actually the right question.
What's the answer?
I think we have to start with the Fed, and we've got to get control of monetary policy and stop the money printing, and we've got to withdraw the support of the government from these big banks.
Okay. Well, like I said, I thought Dodd-Frank did that. I guess I need to learn more about Dodd-Frank. Okay, Bill Frezza, the adjunct scholar at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, CEI.org. Bill, thanks for dropping by today.
Thank you.
Interesting conversation. We'll be right back.